Alright, so this is part 2 of our tutorial video. What we're going to try to do right where we left off is setting the angle for the camera. And what I've done is I put a cube in here, and I'm kind of just trying to get the angle to line up with the road. As close as possible. So just adjust your camera until you feel like it's pretty close. And if you're having some issues with that, you can always take your cube and go to Basics tab and turn the X-ray on. That way it's kind of invisible, X-rayed. But I'm just going to try to adjust without that. I don't really know what we're going to make this shot do in the end quite at the moment. I might make a car go across this bridge and just have the camera kind of just follow it. I don't know yet. It's looking pretty close, probably right there. I'm just gonna lock it right there. So what I do is I'll bring in a camera, and then I'll put a protection tag on it. That way I don't bump the camera. I can't move it. That way, once we're doing our geometry, if we try to move the camera, we can't bump it, and that would be kind of catastrophic if you got really deep into this and then bumped your camera. Alright, so what we're going to do here is start doing our geometry. Luckily for the bridge, most of it's really easy. The only part that's going to be a problem is probably this piece right here, which I'm going to kind of cheat it. Instead of building all these individual beams, since you can't see through them anyways, I'm just going to do a solid shape through there. First, like the bridge here, I'll probably just leave this as the road. That'll probably be fine. I'm going to drop in another cube. And I'm going to rescale it. And this stuff's kind of hard to work with, especially since it's so small. It's hard to see what you're doing. And you can't really zoom in on it because the background will stay and the geometry will leave. One way you can actually fix that to where you can zoom, if you need to zoom for modeling, you can always set up a plane. I think I've done this before. Set up a plane, kind of right behind where the geometry is going to be. You can make it editable. Drop this on it, tell it to be frontal projection. And then right click on the material over here and then say generate UV coordinates. And then after you do that, you can actually go in here and go into your editor tab and turn up the size to something really huge so it's crystal clear. Actually, that just helped out just amazingly, just doing that. Anyways, that will help out. Now if you get out of your camera, you zoom in here, you can actually kind of zoom in, and it might help you line stuff up a little better, but your perspective gets changed, so you have to think about that because the perspective is not the same. But just notes, something you could do. I'm gonna try to eye everything from this distance, and all I really have to do is just scale this down to a pretty decent size. Actually, I'll keep this plane in here. I'm gonna pull it in about halfway in, and then I will actually use this as a kind of a measuring tool So I can zoom in here and I can take my cube and go, okay, well, one thing, this cube needs to be at the end of this bridge. So it's gonna be about right here on the bridge. And I ain't gonna be able to spend too much time on the modeling, unfortunately, or this tutorial would be like 3 hours long. That wouldn't be cool. So I'm just gonna do basic stuff here. That's about the right scale. Go back to my camera. I'm going to turn this plane off so I can see. Oh, I moved it. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, anyways, let's see if the scale... Yeah, that looks about the same. The thickness of my polygons to that one. So, take that cube, line it up with one of the beams, and it looks pretty dang close. Could be a little tad smaller. Could be a tad smaller probably. We'll thin it up a little bit, just a little, both directions, and then go back and then look at it, and that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna pause the video and I'm gonna go through and try to put in all these poles, and then we'll pick up after that. Alright, so we got a little bit more done as far as doing the 3D geometry. Most of it's simple geometry. I was just dragging and dropping stuff in. And you're not really... We're not doing that crazy of a camera move in this. It needs to come down. See, like I said, we're not doing that crazy of a camera move. Since we're not, it means you're not required to do such a great job on geometry. If you were doing like, well, with this kind of stuff, you can't really do any super crazy camera moves, but I just want to show you this. Turn this off. Here's basically a geometry, and it doesn't even all line up. You can tell like the legs don't line up with the bridge to make it fit the perspective, and that's really because my perspective is off. I didn't know, if you know what settings the actual camera took the picture in, if it's 35mm, you know, the lens, the focal length, and all that junk, if you know that, you can actually assign that to your Cinema 4D camera and have a better job at getting stuff to line up. Since I'm just doing this raw, stuff doesn't line up quite perfect, but you know, I can move around this bridge so much before you're really gonna notice it. Now, some stuff I will go in here and fix, like this guy here. He can line up, and this guy. I was trying to eye these from far off, and sometimes I can't tell, but I like those to line up. Other than that, most of this stuff you're not going to notice from the camera move I'm going to do, because if you think about it, once it's projected, we can just move from here and then like move up to like right here, and it's going to be a big move, but you're not going to notice it. So let's go back to our where we're at. Now I need to start putting in the geometry for the mountains. And you want to get depth on these. I mean, you want to try to do it pretty close to the depth, really. All this stuff is obviously right next to the bridge, and then it starts to fade off. So just I'm gonna lay in a plane here. Stretch it out, kind of big. I usually like to do this. Alright, so when we get back on the next part, we'll finish up the modeling.